On a quiet suburban street, just after midnight, a woman stepped outside her home. No screaming, no struggle, no witnesses rushing to help. She didn't get into a car. She didn't run. She simply walked into the darkness and vanished. By morning, there would be no sign of her. No body, no answers. And the people closest to her would begin telling stories that didn't quite match. This is Crime Stories Unfolded. Please follow for more compelling and intriguing stories. The neighborhood of Willow Creek was the kind of place where nothing ever happened. Tree-lined streets, identical houses, porch lights glowing softly through the night. Neighbors waved politely. Children rode bikes until sunset. And crime, when it occurred at all, was usually petty. That's why what happened on the night of October 14th sent shockwaves through the entire community. Because disappearances like this weren't supposed to happen here. Her name was Emily Carter. She was 32 years old, a part-time graphic designer, a full-time mother, and by all accounts, deeply devoted to her 6-year-old son. Friends described her as quiet, thoughtful, cautious, not reckless, not impulsive, not someone who would disappear voluntarily. Emily lived in a modest 2-bedroom house at the edge of the neighborhood with her husband, Mark Carter, and their son. From the outside, they looked like a normal family. But investigators would later learn normal didn't always mean safe. October 14th began like any other. Emily woke up early, made breakfast, and walked her son to the bus stop. She sent emails to clients, did laundry, paid bills. At 3:12 p.m., she texted her sister, thinking of stopping by this weekend. At 6:48 p.m., she posted a photo of dinner on social media. No strange captions, no cryptic messages, nothing that suggested she was afraid, nothing that suggested she was planning to leave. According to Mark, the evening was uneventful. They ate dinner, watched television, put their son to bed just after 9 p.m. Mark claimed Emily seemed a little distracted, but said that wasn't unusual. At 11:37 p.m., Emily received a phone call. Mark said he didn't hear much of it, just Emily standing in the kitchen, speaking quietly. He said the call lasted less than 2 minutes. When she hung up, she reportedly grabbed her jacket. Mark later told police, she said, "I just need some air." And then she walked out the front door. The front door closed at 11:41 p.m. Security cameras from a nearby home captured Emily walking down the sidewalk. She wasn't running. She wasn't looking over her shoulder. She walked calmly into the night. That footage would become the last confirmed sighting of Emily Carter. She never returned. At 6:30 a.m., Mark claimed he noticed Emily's side of the bed was empty. At first, he thought she had gone for an early walk. By 7:15 a.m., panic set in. Her phone was inside the house. Her purse was still on the counter. Her car was in the driveway. Emily had left with nothing. At 7:43 a.m., Mark called the police. Officers arrived quickly. At first, they treated the situation as a possible voluntary absence. Adults disappear sometimes. But as they searched the house, concerns grew. There were no packed bags, no withdrawn money, no messages explaining her absence. And then there was the phone call. When police asked Mark who Emily had spoken to that night, he hesitated. Then he said, "I don't know." Investigators obtained Emily's phone records. There was only one call that night. An incoming call at 11:37 p.m. The number was blocked, untraceable, no history, no previous contact, and whoever called never called again. As news spread, neighbors began speaking up. One neighbor reported hearing a car engine idling around midnight. Another claimed they saw headlights turn off abruptly at the corner of the street. But no one reported seeing Emily get into a vehicle. No one heard shouting. No one saw a struggle. It was as if she had been swallowed by the darkness itself. During his first interview, Mark said he went to bed shortly after Emily left. During his second interview, he said he stayed awake waiting for her. In the third interview, he admitted he checked her phone before calling police. Small inconsistencies. But detectives know, truth doesn't change. Stories do. Within 24 hours, Emily's disappearance was upgraded to a missing persons case. Search teams combed nearby woods. Dogs tracked her scent, only to the edge of the street. It stopped abruptly, as if she had entered a vehicle. But there were no confirmed vehicles, no tire marks, No witnesses. 2 days later, a volunteer searcher found something unsettling. Emily's jacket, folded neatly, placed on a park bench nearly a mile from her home. No blood, no damage, just placed, deliberately. And that detail would haunt investigators, because it suggested one thing. Emily didn't lose the jacket. Someone took it off her. As detectives stood around that bench, one question dominated their thoughts. Why would someone carefully place her jacket unless they wanted it found? And why was Mark's timeline no longer lining up with the evidence? Because what investigators would uncover next would shift suspicion closer to home and reveal that Emily Carter's disappearance may not have been random at all. The jacket shouldn't have been there. That was the first thing detectives agreed on. Emily Carter's jacket had been found neatly folded on a park bench nearly a mile from her home. Not discarded, not torn, not stained, placed. Detectives photographed it from every angle. No fingerprints, no DNA, no signs of a struggle. Whoever left it there knew exactly what they were doing. And more importantly, they wanted it found. Police returned to the Carter home that same afternoon. They had one simple question for Mark. Why didn't you mention the jacket? Mark froze. He claimed he didn't know which jacket Emily had been wearing that night. But earlier interviews told a different story. In his first statement, he told officers Emily grabbed her gray jacket from the chair. The jacket found at the park bench was gray. Another small inconsistency. Another crack. 3 days after Emily vanished, a neighbor across the street contacted police. She said she hadn't spoken up earlier because she wasn't sure it mattered. Now, she wasn't so sure. According to her, around 11:20 p.m., she heard raised voices coming from the Carter house. Not yelling, but tense, angry. The kind of argument people try to keep quiet. She didn't hear words clearly, just tone. And then, silence. 20 minutes later, Emily walked out the door. That detail was never mentioned by Mark. When confronted, Mark denied any argument. He said things were normal. But investigators had learned something important over the years. When people insist nothing was wrong, something usually was. Detectives decided to dig deeper into the Carters' private life. And what they found behind closed doors was nothing like the picture Mark had painted. Emily and Mark were struggling financially. Credit card debt, overdue mortgage payments, and a joint savings account that had been steadily draining. But that wasn't the most alarming discovery. There was another account, an account Mark hadn't mentioned, opened 6 months earlier, in his name only, with regular cash withdrawals, large ones. When questioned, Mark said it was for emergencies. But detectives noticed something troubling. The last withdrawal had been made 2 days before Emily disappeared. Emily's laptop told a different story. Investigators recovered deleted browser history. Searches made late at night. Can someone disappear without a body? How to leave safely with a child. Legal steps before separation. Emily hadn't been planning to vanish. She'd been planning to leave. But not alone, and not the way she did. Emily had confided in one person. Her best friend, Laura. Laura told police that Emily had been afraid. Not of strangers. Not of the dark. Of Mark. Emily told Laura that Mark had become controlling. Checking her phone. Monitoring her spending. Accusing her of things without reason. Laura said Emily was planning to stay with her sister temporarily. That weekend. The same weekend Emily texted about earlier. Emily never made it. Police revisited the blocked phone call. Telecom experts worked for days to identify its origin. What they discovered stunned investigators. The call hadn't come from a cell phone. It came from a landline registered to Mark's workplace. When confronted, Mark said it must have been a coincidence. But police knew landline calls couldn't be easily spoofed. Someone in his office had placed that call. Someone with access. Someone who knew Emily. As days passed, Mark's behavior began to worry investigators. He spoke publicly about Emily in the past tense. He cleaned the house thoroughly, including washing the kitchen floor. When asked why, he said, "I needed something to do." Detectives know that excessive cleaning after a disappearance is rarely innocent. Surveillance footage from a gas station 2 miles away added another complication. At 12:18 a.m., Mark's car was captured on camera. He had told police he never left the house that night. When shown the footage, Mark said he must have gone out briefly to clear his head. Another change. Another lie. Crime scene analysts re-examined the jacket. Inside one pocket, they found something they had missed. A small folded note. 3 words, written in Emily's handwriting. If anything, it wasn't finished. The sentence ended there. Investigators believed Emily had written it earlier and hidden it. As insurance. As a warning. Police brought Mark in for a formal interrogation. Hours passed. He denied involvement. He cried. He grew angry. Then quiet. But he never once asked where Emily might be. He never asked about the search. He never asked if she was alive. Divers searched nearby waterways. Cadaver dogs were brought in. Nothing. It was as if Emily had vanished in a thin air. But detectives knew better. People don't disappear. They're hidden. And just when investigators thought they had uncovered every secret, a new witness came forward. Someone who claimed to have seen Emily that night, getting into a car that didn't belong to a stranger, but someone she knew very well. By now, police no longer believed Emily Carter had simply disappeared. They believed she had been silenced. The only question was by whom, and more disturbingly, how. The call came in late on a Tuesday evening. A woman who had seen the news coverage. A woman who lived 3 blocks away. She told police she hadn't spoken up sooner because she wasn't certain what she had seen. Now she was. According to her statement, around 11:55 p.m., she saw Emily standing near the corner of Willow Creek Drive. A dark sedan pulled up. The driver rolled down the window. The two spoke briefly. Then Emily got in. Calmly. No force. No hesitation. The witness described the driver as male. Mid-30s to 40s. And familiar. It looked like someone she knew. Police cross-checked the description with vehicle registrations in the area. One match stood out. A dark sedan registered to Mark Carter. Mark had already admitted leaving the house that night. But now the timeline looked far more sinister. He had left at 12:05 a.m. The gas station footage placed him nearby at 12:18 a.m. Plenty of time. Too much time. Detectives brought Mark in again. This time, they didn't confront him with emotion. They confronted him with silence. They laid out the evidence. The blocked call. The financial secrets. The argument. The car footage. The witness. Mark's hands trembled. He stared at the table. Then he said something that would never leave that room. She got into the car willingly. That single sentence changed everything. Because until that moment, Mark had insisted he never saw Emily after she walked out the door. Now, he was placing himself with her. Detectives pressed further. Where did they go? What did they talk about? Mark refused to answer. Instead, he asked for a lawyer. The interrogation ended. Despite everything, prosecutors faced a familiar obstacle. No body. No physical evidence of crime. No crime scene. Without Emily's remains, charges would be difficult if not impossible. Mark was released, but he was no longer just a husband of a missing woman. He was the prime suspect. Over the following months, authorities searched. Remote wooded areas, abandoned buildings, construction sites, landfills. Nothing. No trace of Emily. No sign she was alive. No sign she was dead. Her case slowly faded from headlines. But not from memory. That 3-word note, if anything, it stayed on every detective's mind. Some believed Emily had been planning an escape. Others believed she had sensed danger. But everyone agreed on one thing. Emily knew something was coming, and she tried to prepare. Within a year, Mark sold a house. He moved out of state, changed jobs, started over. He never held a public vigil again, never participated in awareness events. And when reporters asked about Emily, he declined to comment. Silence became his shield. Emily Carter's case was eventually classified as presumed deceased. Not murdered, not missing, presumed. A legal gray area. One that left her family without closure, and her son without answers. If Emily left willingly, why leave her child behind? If she was abducted, why no signs of force? If Mark was involved, why was there no proof? Every answer led to another question, and every question led back to that night. Investigators returned to the surveillance footage one last time. Emily walking down the sidewalk, her shadow stretching behind her, the porch light flickering off, and then nothing. She stepped into the dark, and the dark kept her. Some crimes leave scars. Others leave silence. Emily Carter's disappearance left both. A woman who walked into the night and was never seen again. And somewhere, someone knows exactly what happened. They just haven't said a word. If this story stayed with you, there are countless others just like it. Hidden, unanswered, waiting to be unfolded. This is Crime Stories Unfolded. Please subscribe for more intriguing stories like this.